21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast, Tax Moves with Glen Birnbaum. Glen, we're in that time of year again. We're going to expand on what we talked about last week as far as some tax planning goes. And before we started, you were talking about prepaying for fertilizer and those kind of things and how those rules apply to adjusting your income at the end of the year.
Yeah, so, this time of year we're looking at tax planning, and we will remember last week we talked about, having grain contracts with deferred payment, and we can use some flexibility there to adjust our income. In that case, adjust our income up. So that's kind of one lever in tax planning is our grain contracts. The second lever is depreciation, and we've talked about depreciation, over the few months here, where we can, kind of pick a depreciation number that we want, right? We can either take bonus depreciation or not, or take what's called Section 179. So we have some flexibility there. So that's kind of the second lever. But the third lever is prepaid expenses, where we can pay for fertilizer, we can pay for chemicals, we can pay for seed. And most farmers are on the cash basis method of accounting. So, if we need to get our income down, this is another tool in our toolbox, so to speak, prepaid expenses. So we want to talk about that today and talk about some limitations, because there is a couple things that can potentially cause an issue.
Okay.
So, first of all, what are we talking about? We're talking about fertilizer and chemicals. Generally speaking, one of the main things is you really can't pay for more than next year's use, right? So if I pay for 3 years of fertilizer, IRS could come in and say, that's not really appropriate. If you're paying for next year's fertilizer needs, next year's seed needs, that's okay. But you start talking 2 or 3 years, you probably have a problem. So just keep that in mind. Another big thing is you really need an invoice from the fertilizer company, from the seed company, spelling out specifically what exactly are you purchasing. It really should not just be a deposit, right? It shouldn't just be, I just, wrote a check for $100,000 and it's just kind of on deposit at the fertilizer company. It really needs to be, hey, this many tons of DAP, this many, book bags of seed, right? It's got to be specific. Certain types of chemicals, right? Here's the gallons, because that's really supports the justification that I'm actually seeing things for next year. I'm not just placing a deposit with my fertilizer company. So be careful of that. The third thing, which can come into play occasionally, there's actually a limitation on prepaid expenses, that if your prepaid expenses are more than 50%, okay, so 50% is the number, more than 50% of your non-prepaid expenses. So this kind of gets a little confusing. But let's say, just for simple math, let's say we had total expenses on our farm. This is a low number, but I like to keep math simple, of $100,000, right? That's the total expenses on my farm. And that includes $30,000 of prepaid expenses, okay? So I've got $30,000 of prepaid expenses for next year. I've got $70,000 of expenses for the current year that I paid. And that can include depreciation. So 50% is my limit. I take 50% of the $70,000. Okay? That's $35,000. So I can't have more than $35,000 of prepaid expenses. If you remember, my example is I only have $30,000 prepaid expenses. So in that case, I would be okay. So you do need to run that if you really, if you're really picking up a lot of acres and things, you might need to watch that a little bit. But, Casey, there's actually a couple exceptions to even this 50% rule. One of them would be extraordinary circumstances. Really, reason that you can possibly get around this 50% rule. I haven't seen a whole lot of commentary on what that could be, but just know that if there's some really unique situation, you could get out of it. The better one, though, exception number 2, is if you fail the test for 2018. Okay, so we fail that 50% test. we actually could go back to the previous 3 years, lump it all together, and if I didn't fail it in the previous 3 years combined, I kind of get a pass. So bottom line is the 50% test is important, but likely there's probably some workarounds around it just because of that 3 rule. So the most important thing on the prepaids is, make sure that you have an invoice from the fertilizer company with specific quantities and prices of things and descriptions. It can't be just a deposit.
Okay, so that's the key. That's the key takeaway is when you get that invoice, make sure it has exactly what you got with the exact amount, and making sure that that's very well documented.
Yep, it cannot be just a deposit. So and the seed companies, the fertilizer companies, they should know this too. So they should be helping you out to better document things. So,
right on. Okay, Glenn. What else? Anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down today?
I was hoping we'd be able to talk a little bit about the new interest limitation rules. The new rules were supposed to be released here this week. They haven't been yet, so that could. We had talked in the past about if potentially, even though you're under 25 million in revenues, you still might be subject to these interest limitation rules if you're considered a tax shelter. So we still don't know anything about that. So hoping next week I could maybe clear that up a little bit to see if you have a loss, basically you're a farmer, and you've got kind of passive investors, are you going to have a problem with these interest limitations? So that's the one thing I was watching for. So maybe next week we can do just a quick update on that. But yeah, otherwise we're just kind of in the midst of tax planning here, working through, different scenarios with clients, gathering the information and seeing where we want to end up. So we also got about an inch of snow overnight here. So pretty unique for Central Illinois this time of year. So
yep, yeah, we had some snow out here. South of us, they got a little more. South and east, they got a little more than we did. But it is it's cold. We got the cold out of it. So
yeah, I think it is going to be cold tonight. So
yeah,
makes you think about winters.
Sure does, man. Sure does. So all right, Glenn. Well, if folks wanted to grab a hold of you and ask you some questions, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, here at Heinold Bandworks, our phone number is 309-694-4251. You can definitely feel free to call me or look me up on Twitter at Glen Birnbaum.
Lots of good information out there in his Twitter feed, folks, to take advantage of that. Glenn, it's always been fun, and we'll talk to you next week. Till then, have a good rest of the week and a good weekend.
Okay, thanks, Casey. You do the same.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Moving higher in the 21st century.